Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Hello everyone, welcome to the fourth lecture of week 6 on modernization and creative communication. So, in this lecture, we will be talking about something we often don't think about when it comes to communication, the dark side of communication. Now, we tend to think of communication as a very positive thing, right? It's very natural. It's all about sharing ideas, connecting with people, and fostering understanding. But communication can also have a dark side of it, more complex side. This dark side comes into play when power dynamics, miscommunication, and manipulation are involved. For example, communication can fail. It can create misunderstanding, leave us feeling disconnected, or even be used to control or influence people in most unethical ways. So, while communication is essential for human interaction, it also has risks. We are now going to explore how and why communication can sometimes go wrong, how it can be used to exert power, and why it's important to think about the ethics behind what we say and how we say it. Now, let's consider communication as a risky endeavor. Every time we communicate, there's no guarantee that the other person will fully understand whatever we are saying, right? Or whatever we are trying to make sense of. Think about it. How many times, that you have tried to explain something only to be misunderstood. That's the risk we take in communication. There's always a level of uncertainty involved. Now, philosopher Sanders Peirce had an interesting view on this. He talked about the interdeterminacy of signs, meaning that no communication can be completely definite or perfect. Our words and symbols are always open to interpretations, and different people will interpret the same message in different ways. So, instead of aiming for perfect understanding, Peirce believed communication is more about hints and guesses. It is not about getting it exactly right, but about giving the other person enough to work with so that interaction can continue. And this leads us to the idea of pragmatic success. The true test of whether communication works isn't whether the message is fully or perfectly understood, but whether the people involved can coordinate their actions based on the message. In other words, if what you say helps the other person to do something or make a decision, the communication was successful, even if it wasn't perfectly clear. Now, here's a surprising thought. Communication can be in a form of pollution. The word communication comes from, as I have already mentioned in my previous lecture, comes from the Latin word communicare, which means to share or impart. In Greek, there is a similar word. The word is koinou, Koinoo, also means to share, but has an added layer of meaning. It includes the idea of pollution or defilement. What does this mean for us? It means that communication isn't always about spreading positive ideas or useful information. Sometimes harmful, toxic, or negative ideas are also communicated. Think of misinformation, hate speech, or harmful stereotypes. These are all examples of communication being used in a way that pollutes the conversation, spreading negativity, or even defiling the way we think or the way we act. So it's important to recognize that communication can be a double-edged sword. It can enlighten and connect, but it can also harm and divide. Now let's talk about the idea of righteous tyranny of communication. See, this concept suggests that sometimes people are coerced with communicating when they don't want to. Have you ever felt pressured to speak when you didn't feel like talking at all? Just because someone said, "Why aren't you talking? Why aren't you responding?" Or "You need to talk." This demand for, communication, this demand for what you call control, right? So communication can become a kind of control, forcing people to engage when they would rather love to remain silent. There are interesting examples of this in literature and philosophy as well. Think of Butterby, Kierkegaard, and Emerson. These are figures who at times refuse to communicate in the usual way, and yet their refusal to speak or communicate is part of what makes their ideas powerful. They challenge the assumption that communication is always necessary or good. So the key takeaway here is that communication can be used as a tool for asserting power, but if you demand that someone communicate in a certain way, you are essentially forcing them to conform to your expectations. This is something we need to be aware of, especially in situations where power dynamics are at play, whether in personal relationships, the workplace, or even in a society as a whole. Now, one of the biggest myths about communication is the idea of perfect communication. We often think that if we just say the right words or explain things clearly, that's enough. We can achieve perfect understanding. But the truth is, there's no such thing. All communication is subject to misinterpretation and distortion. Think about the times when a conversation has ended, but you felt like you weren't fully understood. That's unfinished communication. You might have gotten your point across, but there's still a gap between what you intended to say and how the person interpreted it. This is part of what Peirce called the fragmentation of interpretation. Every message is completed by the receiver, meaning it's never fully closed or final, because we have already seen, right, that when we talk about the message, it flows back in the form of feedback. So there is nothing called complete communication, right? Now, so instead of striving for perfect communication, we need to accept that miscommunication is inevitable. Our focus rather should be on navigating these gaps and trying to bridge them as much as possible, rather than expecting flawless exchanges. Now, let us just shift to the ethical side of communication. Communication isn't just about getting your message across, as I said. It's about how you treat the person you are communicating with. There's an ethical responsibility involved, especially when it comes to ensuring that the other person understands you, rather than just focusing on your own self-expression. The philosopher Levinas talks about the idea of responsibility to the other. He argues that ethical communication isn't just about saying what you want to say, but about making sure that what you say serves the understanding of the other person. It's about care, respect, and love. Here's a question Levinas would have us consider. I quote, can we love one another? It's not just about whether we can communicate. It's about whether we can communicate in a way that shows love and respect for the person we are talking to. This turns communication into a deep ethical act where the goal isn't just to be heard, but to make sure that the other person feels understood and valued. Failures in communication can have serious consequences, and redundancy is one way to minimize these risks. Let's take the story of Theseus as an example. When Theseus went to fight the Minotaur, he promised his father that he would raise a white sail on his return as a signal of his victory. But Theseus forgot to change the sail from black to white, and his father, thinking his son was dead, threw himself into the sea. What is the lesson then here we learn? In high stakes situations, redundancy in communication, redundancy, which means repeating or confirming key messages, is essential to avoid misunderstanding. This is especially important in life or death scenarios where a single miscommunication can have irreversible consequences. The idea of redundancy is also relevant in today's world of electronic communication. Think about how often you send emails or text messages that gets misinterpreted. The writer Kafka explored this in his work, where the ambiguity of letters created space for ghosts of miscommunication. Even with technology, there's always always a room for things to go wrong, which is why redundancy, or what you call double checking, clarifying, confirming, becomes so important. So, communication isn't just about words, it is also deeply political. Thinkers like Hegel, Marx, Adorno, and Habermas have pointed out that communication is often an index of justice in society. When communication fails, it is not always because people don't understand each other's words. It's often because there are deeper issues at play, like power imbalances, divergent commitments, or a lack of patience. For example, in a political debate, it's not uncommon for people to talk past each other, focusing more on their own agendas than on truly understanding the other side. This kind of communication breakdown reflects larger societal issues where people may not be willing or able to engage with each other ethically. In this sense, communication is about more than semantics. It's about creating conditions for fairness and ethical engagement. If we want to improve communication in society, we need to address these deeper issues rather than just focusing on language or techniques. One of the biggest misconceptions that we have about communication is the idea that it can lead to spiritual fullness or perfect understanding. Let me say, this is an illusion. No matter how much we talk, there will always be blockages, there will be breakdowns and moments of miscommunication, and that's perfectly fine. The philosopher Hegel talked about the immanent work of love and justice in communication. What this means is that the real goal of communication isn't to achieve perfect understanding, but to navigate the inevitable obstacles and work toward ethical relationship. In other words, it's not about reaching some ideal of transcendence in communication. It's about being patient, working through the difficulties, and committing to love and justice in how we relate to each other. So, what are the practical implications of all this? First, we need to recognize that communication is both an art and a discipline. It's not just about following techniques or using the right word. It's about accepting and working through differences. Therapists, for example, you see, are trained to use certain techniques, but they also understand that true communication requires patience, empathy, and ethical engagement. This leads us to the final point. Instead of trying to fix communication with technical solutions, we should focus on creating, conditions that foster understanding, justice, and mutual care or inclusivity. It's less about perfecting communication and more about ensuring that communication serves a higher purpose, building ethical, loving, and just relationships. So, in conclusion, I must say, communication is full of risks, misunderstandings, and ethical challenges, but it's not hopeless. The goal isn't to eliminate all communication gaps. That's impossible. Instead, we should focus on how we engage with these gaps. Can we approach communication in a way that respects and cares for other person? Can we treat them with that kind of love and empathy even when we don't fully understand each other? Can we do that? So, ultimately, communication isn't about perfect understanding. It's about the ethical commitment to engage with others in good faith. It's about striving for justice, fairness, and connection even in the face of misunderstanding. Thank you.